Cancer is a water sign, cardinal, and ruled by the moon. And if we just concentrate on that, water, concerned with feelings, controlled by the moon, emphasizing that, and the rhythms and the ups and the downs of those feelings. But it's cardinal. It has an agenda. It wants something. And of course the moon rulership suggests that there's a lot of the fundamental issues dealt with in Cancer, such as whether there is food, whether there is stability, whether there is emotional comfort. Those kind of baby questions that are not limited to our babyhood. We stay with them for the whole of our lives. These are the kind of fundamental emotional issues that Cancer deals with. So it's a lot to do with family and tribe and belonging and home and familiarity. That's the key issues that we're looking at here. And we start with Cancer 1, beginning the expression of pragmatism. Cancer is not airy-fairy and pink and fluffy all of the time. They can do that very well indeed, but they can actually be very pragmatic indeed, because their fundamental principle is security and looking after the family. My children need my support. That kind of imperative is a very powerful one, and it's pragmatic. It must work or it's not secure. So we have the first indicator here of the willingness to consider loyalties. Cancer must be loyal, but they're not fixed in that loyalty like the Scorpio might be. Cancer can change flags. The first one, the flag furled and unfurled, suggests that when you're no longer serving that which is in alignment with your best interests, then you change, and you change flags. Very intelligent behavior. And in the second degree of Cancer, the man is suspended over a vast level place. This is the expanded perception principle. Once you've changed your loyalties, you see things very differently. You were blinkered, in a sense, by blind obedience to a flag, and now you're not. And the expanded perception gives you a sense of what is possible, what to do next. And what is pragmatic is to exercise a certain strength of will. We're required to overcome in order to be safe and strong and protective of the family. We have to develop strong will because we're going to be challenged in that. Some people will be wanting what we don't want, and they have power. So we need to develop the certain power. And the man and the shaggy deer image is of a man that's gone out there and been a hunter and dealt with the elements and used his will to overcome all of the many challenges that nature throws up. And we have to have something to do of that type always in life, something which requires our will always challenge us. Now, the fourth degree of Cancer is the cat arguing with a mouse. A cat doesn't argue with a mouse. It just eats it because it wants to. And we have to learn that level of ruthlessness in life to be pragmatic. Actually, nobody's taking care of our own interests, not like we need to ourselves. We all need to be a little bit selfish at times. And we don't need to justify ourselves why we're taking this mouse. We don't need to justify it. It's not enough to say, otherwise I would be hungry, otherwise I would die. None of your business. I'm taking the mouse. Because, as soon as you say because, you've made a mistake. I'm taking the mouse. And that's sometimes the pragmatic course. You just do what needs to be done because you can. Now, the automobile wrecked by the train in Cancer 5 gives us a sense of what may happen, what could happen, if we do the wrong thing. The train is a metaphor, perhaps, for the the force of life. Life is just coming at you. It's not really life as some external impersonal force. That's not really the truth. The truth is that, explain my karma, that was a fairly good explanation, where not so much whatever we've done has come at a price and we have to pay that price or be punished or whatever, which is how karma's taught. It's not really like that. Karma's an opportunity to sort things out. We are imperfect, and that gives us a problem in life. If we want an opportunity to deal with that, karma will offer that. Even in the form of a train coming at you when you're actually in the wrong place. The automobile did not need to be on the track of the train. You know, it shouldn't be there. It's wrong. It's a mistake. So it dies. It's wrecked. Make no mistake about it. That's true for us. If we actually stand at the wrong place at the wrong time, we're going to get destroyed. So we mustn't. Were it not for the danger of the train wreck, we wouldn't learn that. We would be complacent, and we would be never more than children. So we need to learn the hard knocks of life have actually something to teach us, and we need to know that we couldn't learn those things without those teachings. Now, in the second expression of Cancer, we study growing. We grow up. We expand towards our potential. And this is an aspect of family, isn't it? That's the thing that family does. It provides the circumstances which supports the growth of the individuals within the family or tribe. Game birds feathering their nests. Once more, we're reminded that selfishness is a good policy sometimes. You're not going to get somebody to feather your nest. Nobody's going to build your home for you. Your parents would do it while you're a child, but when you're an adult, you have to take care of that yourself. And you need to do that with an element of selfishness. And that selfishness can be extended to include you and yours. But it doesn't go much further than that. You take care of your own, yourself, your family, maybe your tribe, your clan, maybe extended family. But you look after yourself. That's an important life lesson. Two fairies on a moonlit night, Cancer 7. Lovely. It's complete freedom from all this harshness of automobile wrecking and having to grow up and take care of yourself and all that hard life, the hard knock life that we've been studying so far. Here we come to Cancer 7, number 7. Two fairies on a moonlit night. It's that world of sevenness, that world of mystery and magic and imagination and fantasy, and it's got its own special quality. It's beyond just ordinary imagination, it's mystical imagination. Fairies, it's the wonder of a certain aspect of our being. And this is more normally associated with children than with adults. But there is something about Cancer that can hold on to that childlike ability to fantasize the softer and more mystical side of life. And we need to return there sometimes. When we go to sleep at night, we return. The soul returns to a certain place where it gets refreshed. Were it not for that, the harshness of life would be demoralizing, dispiriting, and eventually destroy something within us that we need. And that is the two fairies image, the possibility of imagining things in a lovely way, a perfect way, beyond the limits of what we consider possible. And the rabbits on parade, dressing up and going on parade, they're taking that into the application stage. We can imagine it in Cancer 7, but we can apply it in Cancer 8. And the application is, if you can imagine it, you can have it. You can fake it till you make it. You can dress up and pretend you're at another level in life. and you become more and more like it until you are like that. That is the process of growing. We copy somebody. The child copies the parents and do it their way until we know to do it our way. This is normal process of growth. So fake it till you make it. Cancer 9, a tiny nude miss fishing. She's fishing for a fish, but then fishing for information, fishing for a feedback, fishing for something. She's looking, hoping to find something. When you're fishing, you know you want something or other, but you don't know what it is. You don't know what fish you're going to catch. And if we ask our questions with that level of innocent spontaneity, we ask life, well, look, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? Like, what happens if I do that? That kind of open-ended questioning. That generates this imagination into something much more tangible eventually. So in Cancer 9, we're moving towards this sense of just questing for anything, something. And then in 10, the large diamond not completely cut. This is all about shaping that which is yet to be developed as potential. This is applied to us in metaphorical terms. This is training us. We're the diamond here, and we need to be polished and cut and shaped so that we can become the shining diamond that we can be. We're getting to our potential level. So in the third expression of Cancer, we're making a claim. We're learning all about claiming. Cancer 11 is the clown making grimaces. Well, this level of humour is typical. Humour is very often directed at authority figures, taking the mickey out of people who put themselves into a position of authority. And we've created a guide in the last expression for us to follow, but in this section we're saying, okay, enough of that. I'm not going to follow an authority figure anymore. I'm going to ridicule that authority, to diminish their authority, so that I can actually build upon my own authority eventually. That's Cancer 11's job, is to diminish our investment in needing a daddy and a mummy, really. A Chinese woman nursing a baby with a message. Cancer 12 is all about seeing the potential, recognizing our destiny, and seeing that in other people as well as in ourselves. This is perhaps a Tibetan woman finding the Dalai Lama, Rudyard suggests. And there is within each of us something so much more. This uncut diamond said, yeah, there is more, but now we're getting a sense of what that could be. Remembering all about family. The job of the Cancer is to raise the child to be the best they can be. Well, that cannot happen unless we do the same for ourselves. We need to raise our game to a very high level beyond previous imagination, because we've got a sense, a very subtle feeling sense of destiny. We were born to be whatever. It may take a repetition of incarnations before we get there, but maybe not. Maybe we should try to get as far as we possibly can and to dream audaciously of what might be our destiny. Now in Cancer 13 we have this image of the one hand flexed and a prominent thumb. The thumb represents the will to create. Because we have a thumb as a species, we can build things, and our intelligence would be frustrated if we could not make something of it, and the thumb is that which makes our creative potential workable in the world. We've developed a thumb. Our consciousness required a thumb in order for us to be hands-on in our creative capacity. And here we have the image of our fanciful imagination, trained, developed, imagined, but here we're putting it into some form to create something which is real, using the will and the thumb to do that. Cancer 14, the very old man facing an empty space to the northeast. Well, the sun rises in the northeast on the winter solstice. This is the light within the darkest time of the year. We're seeking here to find something beyond. There is a truth that we have to find in life of how to make it all work, to do what we need to do with our lives, but there's an eternal truth beyond that, which it's our destiny to become aware of. Eventually all of us, without question, will become realized beings and will understand the whole mystery completely. That's the inevitable destiny of our yearning for God. That's what that does. And we're all going there at our own speed, in our own time, in our own way, but we're going to get there. You have to have that faith. And this is what Cancer 14 speaks of. The Cancer 15 speaks of the very large group who's overeaten. You know, they're just saying, let's celebrate. We're able to. We deserve it. Let's do it. And Cancer very often, they tend to do that a little bit too much. You have to understand that this feasting aspect of life needs to be balanced with fasting. Feasting, fasting, they're kind of, you can do one as long as you do the other one. But if you don't want to do either, then, you mustn't do just one. So, yet, there are times when to celebrate with a feast is an appropriate behavior. It's good psychologically. We're wanting to mark that we have grown up, that we have reached a higher maturity, and celebrating certain moments in life, certain achievements, even if it's, I've done another year, or we're remembering something special that has happened in the past, times when celebrations occur. It's a very good psychological thing to let yourself know you're on track, not to be too austere like Capricorn might be. The next expression is maturity, and Cancer 16 starts with the man with a manuscript roll in front of him. So this is somebody who's kind of worked out the meaning of life and has written a manuscript or has read a manuscript through which he has learned this. And he gets to understand the self. You can't really understand what's going on in life unless you understand who you are. Because there's so much projection, there's so much interpretation required, there's so much nuances of potential for wrongness because of who we are. Who I am projects itself onto the world, and we see what we look for. Seek and you shall find. So what you're finding is what you're looking for, and that's very self-oriented, that's very personal. So you have to understand what your biases and angle is on life to understand life at all. And then you get to understand that you're just recreating or using recreation. You're playing at making up life, and you do that from your own sense of who you are. So understanding the meaning of life and understanding yourself are in no way different things. It is the same thing. And the manuscript is going to help you understand some clues as to how you do that. Because although we're all different, we're all the same as well. We're all born of parents. And there isn't anything more significant that we've got these two parents, or not, whichever, that have changed how we see the world from the very beginning. That's what makes all this the way it is. So we're all subject to that, and we all interpret that differently. Cancer 17, the germ grows into knowledge in life. Well, building upon potential, growth. We've got the manuscript, we've got the template for how it all works. So how do we make it work? We build upon the germinated seed. The seed is our potential, but it's germinated now. Germinated by experience, germinated by knowledge. It's growing. And it's growing into something. And we choose what that is. 18, a hen scratching for her chicks. This is to do with taking a social role. She's a mother, she's got a duty there for a feeding. And when we actually move into the community properly, this is our tribe. We have to take responsibility for an aspect of our involvement. We take on a social role and we discharge that social role. It's a part of what it is to mature, to grow up further, to reach towards our destiny. We don't get to fulfill our destiny as an immature being. We have to mature all of our capabilities, which includes social responsibility. In Cancer 19, the priest performing a marriage ceremony indicates that the community has got its own way of doing things. And if we want to be a representative and a member of that community even, we have to do things that way. And the priest is saying, I sanctify this sexual involvement. If we're involved sexually with people without some sense of sacredness and sanctification, then the whole structure of our society would be very different. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, I'm just saying in our community we have marriage. There may well be another community which does not, and they would work out the issues to do with child raising and property ownership in a different way. But in our community, largely throughout the world, there is marriage, and therefore the deepest level of loyalty to one another and to the offspring, the kids, So the whole idea here is that we know that that's the way our community does things. In Cancer 20, the Gondoliers, in a serenade, this is going further into the realms of what is permitted, what is socially approved of. Marriage is permitted, marriage is approved of, so is courtship. That's the next one. The Gondoliers indicate how courtship is taken in that particular community. You sing to the lady, a man sings to the lady, softening his maleness, showing his vulnerability, and the lady wants to see that he's got this soft side to him. That's probably there, but whatever it would be, it might be a different behavior, but we do have accepted modes of behavior for marriage, for courtship, for schooling, for taxes and money and all these things. They're all decided somehow collectively by the community, more by the people than by the governments usually, and we have to deal with that, either agree with that or disagree with it, but we do have to deal with it. Now we come to the expression of centering. Having gone through a process of maturing, that there's a sense of being at a level of balance which is different. We're at a higher level of consciousness now. And the balance that we're looking for is between I and thou, or past and future, this and that, any duality at all. And the prima donna, she finds that all of her commitment towards becoming excellent, the best, tremendously successful, gets to a point where it's actually irrelevant. You become successful, and then eventually you're not successful anymore. And there is failure. And you get to that heightened state of centered awareness that success and failure are irrelevant. They're nothing more than emotional outpourings. They don't actually exist. It's just an emotional imagining. So when you've got yourself to a point beyond the need for success or the fear of failure, then you can begin the journey into self. Self, at the level that we're talking now, is soul self. The soul can't win or lose. It's eternal. Its life is guaranteed forever. It's spirit itself. It doesn't know pain. It can't suffer. So it doesn't know about success and failure. And if we identify ourselves ardently with success and failure, for sure we cannot know the soul. And we're moving to a level here where we must have access to soul consciousness if we're to maintain, find and maintain our centered state of being. So in Cancer 22, a woman awaiting a sailboat, her lover will return one day, or maybe he won't. And she has to live with that. Maybe I'll get all I dream of. Maybe. And maybe I won't. That mustn't disturb her too much. She still has a life to lead. She can't go waiting for something which may never happen. Nor can we. We can have our dreams. It's important to develop our dreams and to yearn for them and to move towards them. All of that is true. And yet to be truly a centered, highly spiritual being, you need not to depend upon whether or not they take place. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. If they do, it won't be a success for any length of time. It will soon come to an end, and then we can't invest ourselves in what must be. Nothing must be for us. Life itself gives us all manner of different experiences which are so much better than our dreams anyway. Cancer 23, the meeting of a literary society. This is where we openly welcome critique for who we are. And when you're at this level where success and failure doesn't matter, and you're moving away from ego involvement or attachment towards soul awareness, then you need feedback. You need feedback from people who are saying, well, actually, you are this, and you might want to change that. You need to go through a process, perhaps a psychological process, counseling and so on. But whatever, you need to accept that self-perfecting requires criticism and what might seem like attack. It's only an attack if you take it that way. If you are responsible for everything that happens in your life, which you are, and if you take that responsibility, then it's not an attack, it's simply feedback. You just say, okay, yeah, that's wrong what I did. Thank you for telling me. Now I won't do it again. I've learned, I can grow now. To be able to receive criticism is quite an advanced level. Cancer 24, the woman's on a beach with two blokes, and they're in harmony together. They're facing south, enjoying the sunshine. A woman with two men. That's the eternal triangle, isn't it? It speaks of conflict and difficulty, but not in this case. They're facing south. Everything's fine. When you can harmonize at this level, when you can actually cope with the normal things like jealousy and indecision and those kind of things, and it doesn't disturb you, you simply live according to your own principles in a mature way, centered in your spiritual self, then you can handle all relationships harmoniously. Even love relationships that might be an eternal triangle. Cancer 25, the mantle thrown over the shoulder of the individual, speaks to us of the Roman senator, of power and authority. What happens when we get to this highly developed spiritual state? We inevitably become influential, and very often that's matched by position of influence, but not necessarily. Soft power is even further in the realm of attainment, but here we're talking about taking on the burden of authority, having influence over other people, with or without a name and a salary. You get to a certain level of spiritual awareness, you're influential. You become probably the most influential in your circle, and that gives you a certain authority. Well, you must discharge that in a responsible way. That's a test, examination. All of these developmental stages come with their own examinations, very different tests. And this one is, can you handle power? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Can you prove that statement wrong? Can you deal with power without getting lost in the rush of spiritual empowerment even? I've seen people with spiritual power get off on it, get excited by the fact that they're there and other people are not. That must be very seductive, that role of leading people on a spiritual journey. It is seductive, isn't it? So the final expression of Cancer is uniting. And Cancer 26, these people laying around on Davenports, the aristocrats, they're responsible for more than the common folk. If we take this metaphor to mean what you do with your spiritual authority, which we've just discussed, you actually claim it. You become aristocratic in the field. You've learned how to cope with power. And these aristocrats, they've claimed their land, they've built their big houses, they've furnished their beautiful lounges with Davenports, and they no doubt have the best wine and so on, and they make decisions which affect the common folk. And that's actually what happens when you get to a high level of spiritual development. You get to determine what will happen to those people who are not at that level, because you explain things to them, and that is a spin that shapes the nature of your reality and of their reality, and eventually of a collective reality locally, which may well spin out and become an influence within the general collected reality. We start to change the nature of reality when we're highly developed. In Cancer 27, the storm in the canyon kind of says, yeah, but there's nature, there's thunderstorms, there's force majeure. There are things that happen that we cannot control. However great our power of aristocracy on the spiritual level, nevertheless, we're in danger. We're in the physical world where we can't control it. We only wield influence for a short period of time, and then the tidal wave comes, the thunderstorm or the volcano or something that nature hands us. And that's never going to stop. It's the nature of life in the physical realm that we're constantly overwhelmed by physical danger. Cancer 28, a modern Pocahontas. So she was an interesting figure in history, said to be the first Native American woman that built a life in the West. And she was coming from a rural life and entering a city life. She was coming from one culture and entering a different culture. And so she's representing this bridge principle between two worlds. And we have to do that. We have to bridge between the worlds. Cancer 29 goes further with that. The muse, weighing twins, balancing this against that, receiving the wisdom, the highest wisdom that we can reach by understanding two sides to things. Reflexive self-consciousness. Who am I from the other person's point of view? What am I doing from the other person's point of view? So we have those two sides of things constantly in balance. Reflexive self-consciousness. And finally, Cancer 30, the daughter of the American Revolution. So Cancer has a tremendous respect for tradition. However proud we are and creative we are to make things up in a new way and claim our power and inspire other people with our imagination, nevertheless, all we're doing is passing on what was passed to us. We pass it on differently, we shape it, we own it for a while, but we pass it on. And we take it from the past to the future. Each of us would be much more relaxed if we understood ourselves to be simply a part of that journey from past to future, holding the tradition of what went before alive. However, shaping it, adapting it to modern times, and fulfilling our destiny is uniting everything.